Aloha, everybody, and welcome to Spirit Chat Radio. It's been a few weeks since I've done a podcast, and I'm back now. So I'm actually gearing up for a lot of stuff. I have a webinar coming up, and we're getting ready to launch my enrollment for my psychic ability class. I have some really cool empath stuff that's coming up. So if you are new to me and you are not on my Facebook group, my email list, or my higher purpose learning group, I'd love to see you in there because that's where I post all the cool things that I have going on. And so you can either go to Keys to the Spirit World to get on my email list. There's a higher purpose learning group where I do a lot of spirit chats. If you're not in there already, I do spirit chats. I answer questions. We have a really cool vibe going on in there. Everybody loves the group. It's super fun. I've had more people talk to me, or when I do readings, or they email me saying, this group is so cool because I don't feel weird here, which is funny. But I get what they mean. The thing why I even laugh about that is because apparently I'm just used to being weird. But that being said, I worked really hard on bringing together my own spirit community. And the reason I did that is because there's so much bad information out there. And actually, the reason I do all the things I do, the books, the webinar that I'm working on, the classes, the psychic ability class, you can find that at psychicabilityclass.com and get on the wait list. The reason that I do all of these things, the podcasting, is because I realize there's so much junk out there and a lot of stuff that I think is bad information that's steering people the wrong direction, and it's making people fearful, it's making them frustrated, it's making them confused because they don't know where to turn or where to look. So I spend a huge amount of my spare time doing free stuff for people just to help them begin their spiritual journey to learn and grow and that sort of thing. And so that spirit community, the higher purpose learning group, we also do a lot of cool stuff in there, and it's really endearing to hear when people comment to me and say, hey, I appreciate this group so much you don't even know. That touches my heart, I'm telling you, because I don't think that people understand how much time it takes me sometimes to do all the free information that I do, as well as, running a household business, being a mom and a wife and all that kind of stuff. I do a lot, and I do it for you guys who really feel appreciative and feel like you're benefiting from this information. That's really what keeps me going. So it's super cool to hear when people say that. And someone just told me that the other day. You have no idea how happy I am to have found this group. So anyways, that's the higher purpose learning group. We keep a really cool vibe going on in there with questions and stuff, and we monitor it, make sure there's no spam coming through. I hate it when I get into groups that have spam. It just makes me crazy. So I don't want to defeat the learning vibe and the really cool thing we got going on in there by having spammy stuff. So I have a cool assistant that helps me with that, Lydia. By the way, if she's listening, shout out to her. She's awesome. That being said, one of the things that I wanted to discuss today on today's podcast was 11 signs that you're spiritually awakening. And the reason that I wanted to address this is because all of you know, if you've been listening to my podcast, or even if you hadn't, I'm sure that you've heard tons of stuff about the Mayan calendar, this higher consciousness shift, all the energy in the world changing, everybody wanting to raise higher consciousness, and people are being afraid they're going to be left behind, like there's this whole new energetic world order coming, and they're not really sure if they're on the bus or not on the bus, and that sort of thing. And just to be clear on a spiritual awakening and all this energetic shift that is happening, there is a huge energetic and astral astrological shift going on in the universe as far as universal energy, the earth, the people. There's a huge influx of energy that is shifting. And this has been going on for a couple of years now. It's going to continue to go on as we move from more of a physical-based energy to more of a spiritually-based energy. And why that should matter to anybody is, number one, if there's no bus that you need to jump on to get to the spiritual, heightened, enlightened part of yourself. You're not going to miss a bus. You're not going to miss your opportunity. You're not going to be left behind. I have a lot of people worried that they're going to be left behind, or they're under the impression if they don't raise their consciousness to a certain level that something, I don't know if they think they're going to turn into dust or whatever's going to happen, or their life is not going to have good quality to it, and that's not true. But as we move forward, most people are actually beginning to feel this shift, and they are beginning to spiritually awaken. And there's some really common signs of that happening to you. But a lot of people, I've noticed personally with friends and family who I'm around, who we do not, or maybe do not, maybe never discuss the spiritual aspect of things, which is funny because you'd think that everybody would discuss this with me, but they don't. I have friends and family where we're just normal people hanging out, having food or whatever. So I am always observing people and where they're at as far as a spiritual vibe goes, how high they're vibrating. And it's not necessarily that I'm just looking at somebody and going, hey, I wonder how high this person's vibrating. It's just what I see immediately without even having to choose to look further. So for instance, if you turn around in a mall and you say, hey, that blonde girl in the red shirt, or that tall guy in the plaid shirt, that's as quick as I see people's vibrations and where they're at on a spiritual level. I turn and look and it's an immediate, like the girl in the red shirt. That's how I operate. That's how I see energetically everywhere. So it's not even something I'm trying to do, but what I'm noticing is there's an emerging pattern with people who don't even realize that they're spiritually awakening. And so that's why I thought that this would be kind of a cool, fun podcast to do, because I thought that it'd be fun. You may not even know that you're spiritually awakening. You may have friends or family or husbands, wives that are spiritually awakening that don't even know they are. And that's when stuff can get really cool, because you can look at them and be like, wow, they're totally just, their vibrations raising and they don't even know. How fun is this? So we're going to get into this, the 11 signs that you are spiritually awakening. So let's start with number 1. One of the, and these are in no particular order. This is not going to be like, highest to lowest. They're just 11 signs. So just keep that in mind. There is an increasingly huge number of people just feeling frustrated and unsatisfied. And I know we've talked about this in some other stuff that I've done before, but one of the major signs is someone feeling frustrated or unsatisfied in their life where they maybe were feeling fine before. So I like to use the analogy, and these are very different things. Keep this in mind, but I like the analogy. When people have heard the term midlife crisis before, they always relate it to a certain time in their life. And of course, that's been around for years and years and years. Yes, that is one thing that's entirely kind of different, because this is a vibrational shift thing, but it's the same sort of concept. They were feeling fine. Everything in their relationship was good. Their life was good. They seemed satisfied with going to the same job or what they were doing, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden, they're increasingly finding that they are not feeling very happy, or they're feeling frustrated. But the interesting thing that is different from before, regular midlife crisis type of thing, to now is regular midlife crisis type of thing. They went and bought a red Corvette, started hanging out with younger people, and they were, yeah, I'm good. But the difference now is that's not also where the frustration can be resolved. So anybody who's having a spiritual awakening and they're starting to feel frustrated and unsatisfied with where they're at in life, or what's happening currently with them, they can't go buy the red Corvette anymore, or they can't hang out with a young people vibe and feel better. They actually need to learn how to be more in touch with their spiritual body and what the desires are there and what would satisfy them on a spiritual soul level. And I can get into that a little bit more, which is, again, is why I'm teaching some of these classes to help people sort through this, because then they go, well, that's just great for you to say that, and how the heck am I supposed to know how that feels or what I'm supposed to do? But, I don't leave you guys hanging. I have stuff in the works for you guys to help you filter through this stuff. So feeling frustrated or unsatisfied where you were previously satisfied and everything went well, that's a really big sign. So if you see friends, family members, spouses, whatever, all of a sudden just being like, I'm not enjoying this right now, like anymore, and this isn't working for me any longer, this thing that I'm doing, this everyday thing, like whether, like I said, it could just be what they do day to day, it could be, which brings me to my next one. Number 2 would be the urge to change a job or career. That is huge. That's a huge sign. I'm seeing so many people want to shift jobs and careers right now. It's craziness. The problem with that, or the frustration with that for some people, is number 1, they don't know what they want to change to. They just know that they want to change. Same with the actual number 1. And the other thing is, a lot of times these people have been trained. They've gone to school or have gotten degrees in the job that they're currently in, and they're just like, oh, I'm not loving this anymore. I need to do something more fulfilling to my soul. And they don't even think of it like that. So that's another interesting thing that I find, is these people who I'm around, that I'm observing, they don't think of it like, I need to find something more fulfilling to my soul. They only go so far as to think, I don't like this. I don't like this anymore. I don't know why, and it needs to stop or change. And I don't know which direction to make it change. So if they actually were a little bit more in tune with their spiritual body, or understanding that they were having a spiritual awakening, their brain could put more of a label on what's going on with their chest and their feelings that they're having internally, which is not that they're just unhappy and need to make a change. What they're feeling is that they're unsatisfied on a soul level. See, and I know I've talked about this. I'm talking about it all the time, but I'm going to continue just to really talk about this a lot. With this spiritual awakening, with this energetic shift, people are now beginning to feel their spiritual bodies where they've never felt them before. So the reason for the shift, or when I talk about moving from a primarily physical-based energy to a primarily spiritually-based energy, what happens is you're going from primarily being able to feel your spiritual body or your physical body to actually being able to feel your spiritual body. So you're moving from physical to spiritual. And why that's important is because when we were in physical-based energy, it was very easily ignored, the spiritual body. So it was easy to ignore the spiritual aspects. It was easy to ignore the spiritual body because you couldn't feel it as much, because the energy was primarily physically based. As you move over to the spiritual energy, and you can no longer ignore the spiritual body in the spiritual energy. Your spiritual body is in tune with the spiritual energy around you. So this has like a domino effect. First of all, you start feeling your soul. You start feeling how satisfied you are internally and on a soul and on a spiritual level. You begin to feel that where you didn't feel it before. So before, we could just go around being unsatisfied on a soul level. Nobody cared, nobody felt it, whatever. Now you can't do that anymore without kind of paying the price of going, that doesn't feel right. So you're now being able to feel your spiritual body. You're now being able to feel spiritual energy. And so you're being able to notice a lot of things you didn't notice before. And for many people, that's making them feel uncomfortable and they don't know why. So I'm going to get through this list and we're going to talk more about what to do about it. So we went from the feeling frustrated and unsatisfied. Again, that's you being able to feel your spiritual body and going, this doesn't feel good. And then urging to change jobs, same thing. This isn't feeling right. So the next thing is mood swings. Oh, and on the job thing, most people, when they did choose a career, chose any type of job. I guarantee you that 79% of the people out there chose according, if they went on to secondary education or they really, were choosing a career, they chose based on income and then interest second. Isn't that interesting? You're not going to be able to do that anymore. You're going to have to, and actually that works backwards with universal laws, guys. You actually want to choose based on interest and passion. Money and income will actually flow behind quite nicely and a lot greater if you do it in that order, because it's universal laws. It's a dictation. So number 3 is mood swings. Emotional mood swings or just feeling mood swings. That's a really good indicator that you are having a spiritual awakening. And by mood swings, it can be because somebody made you mad at the grocery store, but mostly you'll feel an influx of mood swings potentially that you're not really sure why. You're more emotional than normal, you're more sensitive than normal, you're more moody than normal. Again, these all tie into you being able to feel your spiritual body, because your spiritual body is in tune with your psychic senses, and your psychic senses are in tune with all this spiritual energy. So where you had, your touch, your eyesight, your smell, all these, physical sensations that you dealt with before, you are now adding on top of that some psychic senses where you're reading energy, feeling energy. You're being able to dictate vibrations. And so when you can feel energy and read energy and dictate vibrations, you actually will notice that you can definitely be affected by up and down emotions and mood swings and that sort of thing, because that comes along with the territory. Physical symptoms is another sign. Feeling tired, drained, feeling clouded, unfocused, where potentially maybe you were really smart before, or it didn't take much thought to just get stuff organized and, get everything done and get your list check everything off on your list. Now it's being harder to get those things done. That's very common. You're feeling drained or tired more than normal. Very common. Feeling like organizing or getting tasks done is like 3 times as hard, or in my case, like 100 times as hard, I swear. That's also very common. Synchronicity is another thing. In numbers or events, things that happen. Any synchronicity signs. This is another sign of spiritual awakening. Numbers. Seeing repetitive synchronistic numbers. Whether it's you see 1111 everywhere, or you see 333s everywhere, or even a random number like 276, and you just keep seeing 276 everywhere. It just keeps showing up everywhere. That's what I mean by synchronicity. It doesn't have to be the same number over and over, but like 111 or whatever. It can be a set of numbers that you're seeing repetitively, or events. If you're understanding or seeing a lot of synchronicity in events that maybe wouldn't normally happen, where you just happen to show up at perfect timing with different people, or this just happens to fall into place nicely, or everything just happens to be lining up perfectly, or you're seeing numbers with something really cool that happens. And or even synchronicity can happen even with symbols, flowers, all kinds of symbols. Like I knew someone that used a frog for a symbol one time, and just frogs started showing up everywhere. Insects, synchronicity with insects, that's a big thing going on right now. People are seeing dragonflies everywhere. They're just seeing them over and over again. Synchronicity is seeing the same thing in alignment over and over again. It's like ladybugs, or whatever insects that you might be seeing over and over again. That's another sign of spiritual awakening, and insects are very closely linked to this spiritual awakening. So those are showing up repetitively for some people, and that's very, very common right now. If you are feeling drawn to all things spiritual, or you're just drawn to spiritual things in general, and you are wanting to study and learn and figure out, why do I feel this way? What is it like to talk to your spirit guide? I'm thinking about angels more. I'm thinking about grandma that passed. I would like to learn more about how energy works or universal laws. Any type of being drawn to something in its spiritual in nature, that's also a very good indicator that you are spiritually awakening. Sleep patterns. This is a fun one. This has been really intense for a lot of people. If your sleep patterns have shifted, so it doesn't matter what your sleep pattern used to be, but if you're noticing that you're out of that pattern and it has shifted, that's a very good indicator. Also, as far as sleep goes, not being able to sleep very well. That's super common. I don't think I've slept in years, I swear. I've just accepted it's not going to happen. I kind of rest, I guess, but me sleeping like other people, that ship sailed a long time ago. So the other thing that goes along with sleep patterns is, if you're noticing that you're asked to travel, feeling out of body with your sleep patterns, you are having very vivid dreams, very crazy dreams. Like if you're noticing that your dream patterns have shifted. Dreaming tends to be another thing that goes with the sleep patterns. People are noticing a lot of shifting in their dreamings. And like I said, it's not that you're one or the other. It's just that your specific pattern for what is normal to you, if that's shifting, that's a very good indication. Maybe some people are light sleepers and all of a sudden they're sleeping really well. God bless you people if you are. I wish I was one of them sometimes. So that being said, shifting in sleep patterns or astral travel or feeling like you're awake while you're sleeping and I would like to get into astral travel, but that's such a whole podcast that if you guys are interested in that, please check out one of my other podcasts on astral travel because that is a really cool subject and there's a lot to say about that. The next one would be feeling the need to be creative. That's an interesting one. I'm seeing so many people I know who I do observe and notice that they are having a spiritual awakening. They do not notice that they're having a spiritual awakening. These are just people I tend to know in my life. And all of a sudden, these people are wanting to be incredibly creative. Like people you never knew had a creative bone in their body all of a sudden are making all kinds of things, or they're wanting to make things, or they're on Pinterest or researching how to make things, or they're woodworking, or they're painting, or they're just being creative. And I find that really cool and fascinating because a lot of the people that I personally know that are being creative and are feeling the urge to create things, they don't even know they're having this awakening, and I didn't really think about them as being creative, and they're just having this burst of creative energy, and that comes along with a spiritual awakening, wanting to build and create things versus tear down things, which was in the physical-based energy. So being creative in any shape or form, could be drawing, could be building actual buildings, I don't know. Having a different understanding or relationship with foods and nature. That's another indicator. People being more drawn and more aware of the foods that they're eating and wanting to be more naturally based food products, not wanting to eat foods with GMO stuff, not wanting to eat packaged foods, wanting to eat more organically, wanting to find more herbal remedies, wanting more fresh foods, or just having a different, if you're feeling the urge to have a different relationship with food in general, that is a really big sign as well, because food is energy. And so as it's really, really energetic fuel. It's so energized. It has so much energy that comes with it that as you spiritually awaken, what happens is you feel different when you eat different foods, and you notice it a lot more. You notice in your spiritual body begins to crave more natural products and things that are more close to its natural process. So for instance, boxed foods are obviously processed, like 8-10 times or whatever. They're processed over and over again until you get the final product. But like if you go grab some tomatoes and lettuce, make a salad, that's obviously not very processed because you're using it in its natural state, right? And so food in its natural state, such as vegetables, even meat, because they come from, animals and the earth's energy, any food that holds this energy, the more you process, the more it loses the energy. So boxed macaroni and cheese has lost any energetic value when you consume it. And so your body and your spiritual awakening, will be a lot more aware of consuming things in your spiritual body that's not benefiting you energetically, because you constantly need to recharge energetically and you need to keep your spiritual body healthy. And so in order to do that, you need to be aware of the energetic stuff that you're consuming or that you're around. So because of that, you're noticing that you're most likely can notice that your relationship with food is changing. And then nature. That's another thing, is wanting to be in nature more. That kind of goes hand in hand with each other. But plants have energy. The earth has energy. It's, when you're in your house or at your computer a lot, which I actually am, you crave to be in nature more because you get a nice charge and a grounding from being in nature and just having more of a connection with nature. So wanting to shift your relationship with foods and or your relationship with nature, being in it more, etc., that's another huge indicator. The need or the want for more freedom, that's also a huge indicator. The need or want for more freedom, that's something that is really cool, and it is something that a lot of people are experiencing, and usually they correlate that to, I don't like my job, or I don't like this situation that I'm in. And so the want to have more freedom instead of more stuff, that's moving from a physical based energy to a spiritually based energy, because in the past, people wanted more stuff. They wanted more physical things. In this spiritual awakening, people are wanting more freedom to enjoy, engage, and just be in nature, and to be, like experiencing life more. They want more freedom to have more experiences. Instead of more stuff, you're wanting more experiences. In order to have more experiences, you usually need more free time. Now, just for those of you who feel like you want more freedom, I'm noticing that those who do wish that they had more freedom, they tend to not necessarily, I don't want to say that their organization skills aren't up to par necessarily, but I'm just saying sometimes you don't need to change your entire routine as far as work goes if you know you need that job to pay the bills. Sometimes you can restructure to get more freedom and start letting some things go longer than you would normally go, like let laundry go a little bit longer. Just pay attention more to what you're doing on your off time. Instead of forcing yourself to be responsible and do all the things that you hate doing, you can choose more freedom in your off time, even if you're working a 40-hour work week. Things can get done and eventually will get done, but that's an interesting one that I'm seeing a lot of, is more freedom. And number 11, the last thing that I'm noticing, and like I said, this is not in any particular order, guys. It's just 11 signs, is people are beginning to question their beliefs or their belief system or the belief system of others who are around them. And so if you're finding that you're questioning the beliefs in maybe something that you've believed for years, or you're questioning the belief system of a religious structure, or just the belief system of how the world works, that's a huge sign of spiritual awakening. what I'm also mean by that, what I'm noticing a lot of is, we were all taught, or I don't want to say we because that really wasn't me, but a lot of people were taught that the world works a certain way. You grow up, you do things a certain way, and you go to college and you get a job and you get a family and you be responsible and you do XYZ, and you need to make a good living to provide for yourself and provide for your family. And that's not how it really works. And a lot of people are starting to feel that they were steered the wrong direction because they did all of those things. And if they did all those things, why do I feel like this? Why do I feel unhappy or unsatisfied? Or why is my family miserable? Because we're all miserable. We're not having fun. And so they start questioning their beliefs or what they believe, work hard, work harder. And then, hard work is where everything comes from. That is an old belief system, and it's not how things work on an energetic scale. It's not how things work with universal laws. And because the universal energy is becoming really intense, people are going to start noticing that just is really not true. The harder that they work doesn't mean the more satisfied and happy that they're going to be. It just isn't that way. And just because you're an adult doesn't mean you should be unhappy or unsatisfied either. It doesn't work that way either. You're not supposed to be an adult who's miserable doing what you're doing and your family's miserable. That's not what was intended when you made your birth chart and your life chart. That was not what was intended at all. You are supposed to come down and learn and grow and flourish and experience and make the best person you can make and have the best experiences you can make. And with that does come times that are hard, but it also entails and brings a lot of happiness and adventure and exciting things to your life, as long as you let it and don't structure your life so structured that everything is just repetitive, the same, and following a pattern that was set years ago by parents or teachers or whatever, and that pattern doesn't work. It's not, it didn't, if you are one of those people, or even if you're not, go back and observe just mentally for a minute all the people who potentially really truly believe that that's what you're supposed to do, and ask yourself if those people are really truly happy. Are they really happy to the core of their soul and the core of their being? Are they happy people? Because if they're not, and I would say 80% of the time, 90% of the time, they're not, then why are we repeating their pattern? Why are we taking what they said? Why are we learning by what they're teaching? Because obviously that didn't work out very well for them. So a lot of people are doing this, and that begins to make them question their beliefs and question what they've learned so far, and they want to learn a new way. They want to learn how life can be easier, how it can be more fulfilling, how it can feel better, how that can be more adventurous, and how you can just feel calmer and more good and not so worried and fearful and worried about money all the time and fearful that this isn't going to work out and that's going to work out. And in order to do that, you really need to question your beliefs. You really, really do. And you need to learn a new way of how the spiritual energy works. It's spiritual energy, don't get me wrong, has always worked the same way. More people are just more aware of it now. So while universal energy and spiritual energy have always been and will always be, that structure hasn't changed. It's always existed. We were just like tipped a little bit more with the physical energy being just more heavily noticed. Now we're going to spiritual based energy be more heavily noticed, you see. So even physical energy will also still exist. It will just be less noticeable. So while these energies have always coexisted, one is, like I said, one is more noticeable usually than the other. We haven't gotten to where they're both really heavily noticeable, or I guess maybe now might be the time that they're the most heavily noticeable together. But that being said, as you're beginning to feel spiritual energy, you will begin to notice and see that, wait a minute, this is never what I thought was. This is all wrong. I was taught all wrong. This isn't how the world actually works, and I don't understand this, and I want to learn more. So they start questioning their beliefs. So I'm going to run through these a little bit and then talk a little bit more. So we got if you're feeling frustrated or unsatisfied, the urge to change jobs, mood swings, feeling emotional, physical symptoms such as tired, drained, feeling clouded and unfocused, synchronicity, numbers, events, patterns, insects, that sort of thing, drawn to all things spiritual, sleep patterns have shifted, feeling the need to be creative, wanting a different relationship with food and or nature, wishing for more freedom or craving, having the desire for more freedom instead of more stuff, and questioning your belief system that you've known so far. So these are 11 signs you're spiritually awakening. And some of you might be going, great, now what do I do with all this information? Well, what you need to basically do is you need to learn how to become more in tune, for those of you who are interested, with your spiritual body and understand how spiritual energy works. Where I can be helpful in that regard, or what I'm trying to do to help people, is I teach a lot about becoming more in tune with your spiritual body. I have a bunch of cool stuff coming up, but we are opening enrollment for the psychic ability class that I teach, and that is a really good step. So you can do a ton of free stuff. You don't have to buy anything. So you can go read all kinds of books on your spiritual body and learn how to become more intuitive with your psychic senses, because that helps you immensely. Becoming more in tune with your psychic senses helps you to become more in tune with your spiritual body, because that's where they stem from. No matter if you think you're psychic or not, it doesn't really matter. Your spiritual body comes with psychic senses or spiritual senses, just like your physical body comes with, hear, touch, smell, sight, that sort of thing. Your spiritual body also comes with 6 senses. And so in order to become more in tune with your spiritual body, just like you would use your physical senses with your physical body, you want to become more in tune with your psychic senses or your spiritual senses. And so that comes with learning. You can read about that stuff. You can test that kind of things. You can just develop more as much as you can on a spiritual level. But for those of you who have done that and would like more, I teach a lot about becoming in tune with your spiritual body in that psychic ability class. And like I said, it's at psychicabilityclass.com. I'm going to be opening enrollment for 10 days this month. That's all. Then it will not be open until, I believe, February or March again. And also, I have some cool things coming up with my empath school and some webinars. So if you guys would, like I said, I always do free stuff. The webinar is going to be really cool. It's going to have a lot of fun information on it. I'm just putting that together, so I don't have the date yet, but I'm thinking it's going to be fairly quickly. For those of you who would like to learn how to become more in tune with your spiritual body, join the spirit community at Higher Purpose Learning Group. Go check out my website at Keys to the Spirit World and watch for more free information. And like I said, I'd love to see you in my class, because that's where we're going to really be connecting, and that's where you're going to learn a lot. And everybody loves that class. So it's been wonderful and helpful. So until next time, hopefully you've learned about your spiritual awakening, and now you can go off and grow and learn more about being in tune with your spiritual body. And like I said, until next time, aloha.